Chapter 569. Death Mage was helpless and could only pull out his blade and attack. I'll dodge again, you can't hit me, this is the new clothes that Meng Meng gave me, bastard. Stop, I admit defeat, big brother, don't mess around, we can talk about it, actually, I came here today to chat with you. GGG, Imperial Translation, there's nothing to talk about, I can't kill you, I can only wait for you to die. After that, I can go back and report back. Seeing that the skeleton stopped attacking, Long Outyen let out a light sigh. In this godforsaken place, other than Meng Meng, there's only you, I can't even find someone to talk to. GGG. Imperial Translation, at least you have a woman to accompany you, I don't have anything at all. Long Outyen also felt that the skeleton wasn't here to kill him, but to trap him here. Thus, he wasn't that afraid. Sitting on the rock, he supported his back with both of his hands and looked at the starry sky. Let me tell you a good news, I'm going to be a father. Long Outyen said lightly. Death Assassin stood at the side and didn't speak. I still haven't thought of what to name my child, the name that Meng Meng thought of is too sissy, I feel that it should be more domineering. Skeleton, what do you think would be more domineering? That's right, you don't even know how to speak. Speaking of which, at least I have Meng Meng to accompany me, you don't even have anyone to accompany you, you are even more pitiful than me. Today is also the first day of Chinese New Year, do you want to go to my house to eat something? I also have chicken drumsticks, how about it? Hearing that there wasn't any movement behind him, Long Outyen turned his head around and saw that Death Assassin was nowhere to be seen. Letting out a deep sigh, Long Outyen walked back to his house. Death Assassin, who was not far away, looked at Long Outyen's back view and slowly sat down. Leaning against a big tree, he looked at the boundless starry sky. When will it end? I really miss the days in the past. Long Outyen, who returned to the small thatched cottage, shook his head. Outyen, that assassin isn't coming. Meng Meng asked. He might feel embarrassed. Meng Meng nodded her head, he is too pitiful, he has been guarding you for more than half a year, and he doesn't even have anyone to talk to. Yeah, forget it. Let's not talk about him. Let's go to sleep. Long Outyen's state of mind had indeed changed a lot. He was no longer as impetuous as he used to be. He had become more down-to-earth, and the idea of having multiple wives and concubines had disappeared with the birth of his child. His current life was the real deal. If Xiao Yi had the same thoughts as Long Ao Tian, he wouldn't have died so miserably. This Long Ao Tian was a big winner in life. He had a wife and a child, and he even had Death Mage as his sparring partner. However, if he wanted to leave the mountain, he would have to defeat the Death Mage first. However, being able to defeat the Death Mage, this Long Outyen was already very awesome. In the God's Realm's heavenly palace, two men dressed in ordinary clothes were walking on a lifeless street. Some of the shop doors were still open, but they were already covered in dust. A few months ago, this was a bustling street, but now it had become like this. Chief Steward Su, where do you think everyone is? Beside him was a man of medium build. His name was Wang Hong, and in front of him was Lingdu's inner minister, Su Shen. Su Shen silently sized them up, his expression was very grave. This battle should have happened outside the city, but the terrain outside the city had already changed beyond recognition. This should be a very powerful sovereign. Seeing that Chief Steward did not say anything, Wang Hong said again, even if these people died, they should have left behind a trace of blood. Chief Steward, look, even the teacups are still there, could it be that they evaporated? Actually, the two of them had already been in Heavenly Palace for a few days, and they had been collecting evidence. However, they did not manage to find anything. It seems like all the evidence had been erased. If there is no evidence to bring back this time, I'm afraid it will be hard to explain to Spirit Emperor. Su Shen lightly sighed. This time, Spirit Emperor had given a death order. They must definitely find out the cause of this matter. It would be good if there was a person involved. This group of people really did not let a single one of them off. They are trying to silence them. Wang Hong could not bear to see this. This imperial city has at least a few million people. This is too vicious. Indeed, extremely vicious. Su Shen nodded his head in agreement. Oh right, Chief Steward Su, these few days I also discovered a very strange matter. What matter? Chief Steward Su, please follow me. The two of them flew towards the horizon, heading towards the outside of the city. Chief Steward Su, look at this trace of fire coming from the horizon. Wang Hong said as he pointed towards the horizon. Didn't we already discuss this matter? It is the Inferno Abyssal Dragon. Su Shen said doubtfully. Wang Hong said gravely, that's right, it is indeed the Inferno Abyssal Dragon, but Chief Steward Su, look at the trace, I'm afraid that there is more than one of them. More than one? What proof do you have? Chief Steward Su, look below, although there are a lot of cracks, look at those claw marks. Su Shen's gaze narrowed, and he flew down with Wang Hong. This. Su Shen tightly knitted his brows, he was very puzzled. Chapter 570. Yihua wouldn't release Sun Meteorite Heavenly Fire for no reason. In actuality, he could have directly killed Sovereign Fa Lien, and Sun Meteorite Heavenly Fire was meant to frame him. After all, Sun Meteorite Heavenly Fire was one of a kind. Even if that Sovereign Yuan Yang had more than 10 mouths, he wouldn't be able to explain it clearly. We have to quickly return to Lingdu, something big is going to happen. Su Shen's expression tensed up. Sovereign killing sovereigns is incredible. If the sovereign's nature is bad, then everyone will be killed, just like that battle 5 years ago. The two didn't think too much and immediately disappeared from where they stood. A conspiracy that came from Yihua is going to attack God's realm. Framing others, Yihua is playing very well right now. On the morning of the second day of Chinese New Year, Yihua heard the report from Brett. I didn't expect that Voidless Realm's target is actually Voidless Realm. Interesting, what a bold idea. Toward such a matter, Yihua wished for them to come earlier, but he felt that they might not be able to come. Should I give them some motivation? Yihua, let's go. Qingye carried her son and walked over. To where? Of course to go to my father-in-law's place. Aren't we supposed to return to our parents' place on the second day of Chinese New Year? To be honest, Yihua didn't want to go to his father-in-law's place at all. Looking at her husband's unwilling look, Qingye still doesn't know that Yihua's identity is right there, even I can't do anything about it. But no matter what, they are still my parents. Yihua, I am just going to take a seat, there is no need for you to give me a red packet. Yihua, is this a problem with the red packet? Do I look like such a petty person? Hubby, Qingye begged. Speaking of which, my parents have only met Yihua once, and that time was very unpleasant. Now that the child has already been born, there shouldn't be anything to say, right? Go. Yihua said gravely. This human custom is truly troublesome. After Baiji's child is born, I will consider going back too. So obedient, let me reward you, Qingye kissed Yihua. However, Yihua didn't just want to kiss her. The little fellow laid in his mother's embrace and looked at his parents' actions with his big eyes filled with curiosity. The two of them returned to Leisure Bar, and woke up Qin Yutong who was sleeping soundly. Going back to Leisure Bar by plane was a bit slow, so it was better to directly return to Leisure Bar. My little nephew, let Aunt hug you. You're so handsome. Qin Yutong carried Yi Yan into her bosom, and the little fellow was a little unhappy, because this aunt of his keeps pinching his face. So Yi Yan reached out to his mother and squeaked. Little guy, you're not even willing to let your aunt hug you. Be careful that you don't get a girlfriend in the future. When Yi Yan saw how fierce his aunt was, he immediately burst into tears. Qingye took a glare at her little sister, then hugged onto her son and coaxed him. Yi Hua, who was at the side, said gravely, "What are boys crying for? If I see you cry again, I'll lock you up." Yi Yan immediately stopped crying, but he did not dare to look at his father. "I have only been out for a day, and I don't even have the right to cry anymore." She felt that her father was super nice to her sister, but he was extremely fierce to her. It was as if she was a gift for topping up her phone. "Yi Hua, it hasn't even been 2 days since Yen arrived, can't you speak properly?" Qingya was trying her best to protect her son, not letting Yi Hua bully her son. The little fellow needs to be educated since he was young. That doesn't mean that he should be taught like this, can't he be a little more patient? Qingya persuaded, hoping that Yi Hua would not be so fierce towards his son. Yi Hua was angry towards his son. After all, the main culprit that scared Yi Hua quite badly that night was this little fellow. Qing Yutong did not say anything at the side. "It is better for me to not interrupt this kind of topic." Arriving at the door of his father-in-law's house, Yi Hua was empty-handed. He did not bring anything with him. "I, the Supreme Overlord, have already given enough face by coming here, and you still want to bring things?" "I, the Supreme Overlord, have never brought anything with me." A few gift boxes could be seen appearing in Qingya's hands. "Yi Hua, take them." Qing Yutong, who was at the side, said, "Brother-in-law, just take them and put them in, just put them in." Yi Hua felt that he was going to go crazy. Baiji is still the best, she doesn't even have any elders. Taking a deep breath, Yi Hua said gravely, "Just this once." All right, just this once." Qingya spoiled Yi Hua. If it was any other woman, they would have already gotten angry at him. Holding on to the gift boxes with both hands, Qing Yutong pressed on the doorbell. The one who came out to open the door was still Uncle Fu. "The two misses have returned, Mr. is also back. Is this the young master?" When Uncle Fu saw Yi Yan, he cried out in surprise. Qingya laughed, "Uncle Fu, Happy New Year, this is my son, Yi Yan." "It really is the young master, quickly come in, the madams will definitely be very happy." Because Qingya was carrying the child, Qing Yutong prepared slippers for brother-in-law. This scene made Uncle Fu recall the scene from that day. Just that, he became the second miss. How can this man be so awesome? Yi Hua, who was holding on to the gift boxes, followed behind, appearing a bit unnatural. Walking into the living room, Qing Huaxian saw that his 2 daughters had returned, and he was happy in his heart. However, when he saw Yi Hua, who was at the back, that happy expression of his immediately collapsed. Seeing Qing Huaxian's attitude, Yi Hua did not pay attention to him. This is..." Zihan suddenly stood up and looked at the child who was in her daughter's embrace. With a smile on her face, Qingya said, "Mom, this is my son, Yi Yan." Quickly let Mom take a look." "You already gave birth to the child, why didn't you give us a call?" Zihan carefully took over Yi Yan. However, not long later, Yi Yan started crying loudly. That heart-wrenching cry was as if he was going to die soon. Wang Muqing, who was at the side, took over Yi Yan and tried, but who knew that it was also useless. In the end, Wang Muqing still handed Yi Yan over to Qingya. Just when Yi Yan entered Qingya's embrace, he instantly stopped crying. Yi Hua looked at his son's gaze and praised. "Brat, you did well." Seeing his father's praising gaze, the corner of the little fellow's mouth curved up. Then, he hid in his mother's embrace and refused to come out, because his mother's embrace was too warm. Qing Huaxian looked at the gift box in Yi Hua's hand and was also filled with disdain. "My Qing family is no longer the same as before. Right now, I am also a reputable person in Zijin City. Back then when I went to see the Empress, everything that I did after that was smooth sailing." As for Qingya, her change was really too big. No one knew that she was Qing Huaxian's daughter, and furthermore, both father and daughter did not appear in public at the same time, so no one knew at all. If other people were to know that Qingya's father was Qing Huaxian, that would really be terrible. Qing Huaxuan's vanity would definitely go berserk. Chapter 571. Yihua, sit. Qingya said softly. Seeing that her husband's expression was not very good, she reckoned that it was because of her father. Her father did not know of Yihua's identity and thought that he was just a bar's boss. It was unavoidable for him to look down on Yihua. After all, I am too perfect, I am so beautiful, and I am also so rich. Sigh, beauty is also a kind of sin. If not for giving face to his wife and sister-in-law, just by looking at Qing Huaxuan's expression, Yihua would have already turned around and left. When have I, the Supreme Overlord, been looked down upon like this? Which one of them wasn't trembling in fear under my feet? Slowly sitting down, Yihua still did not say a word. This caused Qing Huaxian and the others to be very unhappy. At least greet him. From the moment he walked in, he did not speak. How can this be? Could it be that you are waiting for the elders to greet you? Qing Huaxian must let this man know that Qing family is very powerful right now. Xiao Yi, are you still running a bar? Qing Huaxian leaned on the comfortable sofa and asked curiously. Xiao Yi. Yihua was immediately stupefied. Qingya and Qing Yutong were also extremely shocked. A supreme overlord was actually called Xiao Yi by an ordinary person. This is something that has never happened before. Right now, Yihua felt as if he was going to explode. If not for Qingya's father, this person would have already disappeared by now. To actually be so rude to me. Xiao Yi. Yihua was so angry that he almost suffered an internal injury. Qingya, who was at the side, secretly held on to Yihua's hand. Don't be angry, father didn't do it on purpose. With his wife's consolation, Yihua felt a bit better. Seeing that Yihua's expression was very bad, Qing Huaxian was very satisfied. Compared to my Qing family, that little bar of yours is really nothing. I can make you close down in just a few minutes. Xiao Yi, business is not good these days. How much money can a bar earn? If you really can't do it, you can go and help out at Qingya's company. Qing Huaxian said very seriously. Now that I already have a child, there is no other way. Although this man is a bit lacking, if I teach him properly, he will still have a future. Luckily, Qing Huaxian did not say such words, if not Yihua would definitely explode. However, it is more or less the same now. To actually say that I can earn a bit of money, and even want me to go and work at my wife's company. Dad, it is quite good for Yihua to open a bar, there is no need for that. Qingya hurriedly mediated the situation and told her dad to stop talking about it, if not, Yihua would definitely quarrel with her. But how could Qing Huaxian understand his daughter's meaning? Furthermore, seeing how his daughter was defending a man like this, he became even angrier. Xiao Yi, life is not that easy, there are a lot of things that young people like you two simply do not understand, this world is also not as simple as the two of you think. After finished speaking, Qing Huaxian actually displayed the sitting posture of a big shot. Why does Yihua feel that this sitting posture is very similar to mine? When Qing Yutong heard what her father said, she had a hard time enduring it. Father is actually acting cool in front of brother-in-law, ha ha ha. It was too funny. Qingya also had a helpless look on her face. What should I do now? My father is actually getting complacent. Suddenly, an idea came to Qingya's mind. As long as I coax Yihua, everything will be fine. Thus, Qingya secretly sent a message to Yihua. What? Yihua asked coldly. Hubby, don't be angry, my dad didn't do it on purpose. Qingya pleaded. Yihua snorted. If it was on purpose, I, the Supreme Overlord, would have flipped out long ago. Hubby, don't be angry, I will properly serve you tonight. What else could Qingya do? She could only give Yihua what he wanted the most. As expected, after hearing Qin Ye's promise, Yihua's anger dissipated by quite a bit. Any position is fine. And, as long as you don't get angry, it's up to you. Alright, you are the one who said it. And, I said it. Qin Ye was helpless. However, it is fine as long as I coax my husband. Ever since Dongwang Baiji announced that she was pregnant, Yihua had been living a simple life, which was too horrible to look at. Right now, Qin Ye took the initiative to woo him, causing Yihua's mood to become very good. The gaze that Yihua looked at Qin Huaxian with also became a lot friendlier, seemingly saying, "Your daughter is not bad, to be able to serve me very comfortably." Oh. Is there anything else that I don't know? Yihua began asking along with Qin Huaxuan's words. To act cool in front of me. Only you are still alive. Qin Huaxian laughed, seemingly laughing at Yihua's ignorance. However, the current Yihua didn't care about it, he just wished for this night to arrive faster. I have endured for more than a month, and I am already about to explode. There are some things that are useless even if I tell you. I am afraid of scaring you youngsters. Pfft. Qin Yutong finally couldn't take it anymore and laughed out loud while hugging onto her stomach. Dad, can you not be so funny? Don't you know that boasting in front of the Supreme Overlord is very embarrassing? Qin Ye also laughed out loud. It's fine if my husband likes to act cool, but now, even my father has fallen in love with him. I hope that my son doesn't have to study and just become a scientist in the future. Wang Muqing patted onto her daughter petulantly. Yutong, what are you laughing at when your father is talking to you? Nothing much, I just thought of a very funny thing and couldn't help but laugh. While speaking, Qin Yutong laughed even louder. However, in Qin Huaxuan's eyes, Qin Yutong's smile looked as if Qin Yutong did not believe in him, and Qin Yutong felt as if he was lying to them. Yihua said faintly, I have never been scared before, why don't you tell me if you are able to scare me or not? All right. Then, I shall let you youngsters gain some experience. Qin Huaxuan's eyebrows straightened as he shouted out solemnly. This caused Qin Yutong to laugh to the point that she couldn't breathe. Yutong, you are too impolite. Wang Muqing lectured her own daughter. Qin Yutong finally couldn't hold it in anymore and was prepared to listen to how her father was going to scare people. Qin Huaxian glared at his daughter, then said gravely, in this world, there is a group of people who know magic, formidable right? The kind that can fly to the sky and dive into the earth, hee. Looking at Qin Huaxuan's serious look, Yihua and the others were a bit surprised. Such a small matter, and it was turned into a big matter by your expression, not bad. Qin Huaxian was very satisfied with this expression, it seems like my words had already subdued these youngsters. Just this north of mine, there are a lot of powers that exist. My Qin family can also be considered as a mainstay. Pfft. This time, even Qin Ye started laughing out loud. Seeing that her big sister couldn't hold it in anymore, Qin Yutong also started laughing out loud. Dad is too good at acting, when did Qin family become a mainstay? You must be lying to a child, this is too exaggerated, right? Right now, Qin family can basically not be counted as a family at all, because Qin Huaxian doesn't know anything, thus, he can't be selected. Looking at the attitude of his two daughters, Qin Huaxian was very angry and said gravely, do you guys know? I am the strongest person that I have ever seen in the north. Empress. Do you know what is an empress? She controls the entire north's powers, and with a single sentence, she is able to change a person's fate. What do you youngsters know? Ha 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 ha. Asking for tickets. Chapter 572. Qin Ye and Qin Yutong were about to cramp up from laughing, even Yihua had a trace of a smile on his face. This Qin Ye's father is too funny. It seems that the last time when Baiji came over for the big meeting, because she met Qin Yutong like this, her entire person became inflated to the sky. Indeed, ever since Qin Huaxian met the Empress, he went around flaunting his glorious history, and the Empress especially gave him face. The people who were at the scene back then also felt a little bit, and adding on to Qin Huashuan's words, they had no choice but to believe him. Thus, their attitude towards Qin Huaxian changed 180 degrees. What are you laughing at? I still have evidence here. Qin Huaxian said gravely. This youngster actually doesn't believe me. Evidence? Yi Hua and the others went into a daze for a moment. They were very curious about what evidence it was. Dad, let me take a look at the Empress that you were talking about. Qin Yutong asked, but her smile became even wider. Dad has changed. Qin Huaxian took out his phone and found a photo. Look, this is a photo of me and the Empress. A photo. Yi Hua and Qin Yu were very surprised. I don't remember taking a photo with the Empress that day. Could it be that the photo was taken privately? Dong Wang Baiji doesn't seem to have mentioned it before, right? Qin Yutong took the photo over, and Yi Hua and Qin Yu looked over as well. In the photo, Dong Wang Baiji could be seen standing leisurely, and Qin Huaxian was respectfully standing at the side. However, if one were to take a closer look, the Dong Wang Baiji in the photo looked a bit strange, as if the photo was photoshopped. Qin Yu felt very helpless. My dad actually used this kind of photo to bluff me. In actuality, Qin Huaxian wasn't bluffing, he just felt that it was very glorious for him to have met the Empress, and thus he asked someone to photoshop a photo to prove that he was someone who had met the Empress before. Yeah, look at you, if you have even half of her elegance, your father will be at ease. Qin Huaxian sighed lightly. My daughter's appearance is on par with the Empress, but in terms of temperament, she is a bit inferior. After hearing that, Yi Hua immediately laughed. Well said. Qin Yu, did you hear that? Learn more from the Empress. Yi Hua patted on Qin Yu's shoulder and teased. Speaking of aura, Dong Wang Baiji was indeed a notch higher than Qin Yu. Back then, the two women had also displayed their aura in front of Yi Hua. Dong Wang Baiji's aura was very big, while Qin Yu's aura did not have that kind of aura. Qin Yu was that kind of gentle and beautiful type. Even if she had a straight face, it would not have that kind of strong effect. On the other hand, Dong Wang Baiji was different. When Dong Wang Baiji put on a straight face, she looked very scary. However, when Dong Wang Baiji smiled, Dong Wang Baiji seemed like a completely different person. Yi Hua had even secretly asked the Empress to put on a straight face, and then, it felt really good. Qin Yu glared at Yi Hua petulantly. I have been using this matter to tease myself quite a bit. Yi Hua's attitude made Qin Huaxian a bit unhappy. I am teaching my daughter, what are you interrupting for? Little Yi, you have to change too. Yi is so outstanding, you have to become even more outstanding. Qin Yu felt great in her heart. This is what a father should be like. Yi Hua, did you hear that? You have to become even more outstanding. Qin Yu launched a counterattack, causing Yi Hua to be very displeased. Am I not outstanding? In this entire world, I am unable to find another man who is as outstanding as me. Yi Hua did not say anything. I'll just quietly listen to you two bragging. I, the Supreme Overlord, am not going to bother with you two today. Qin Huaxian let out a light sigh. Actually, it's also good if it's a bit more ordinary. It's better for us to not get involved in that kind of world too much. The competition is too serious, and I'm afraid that if I were to say it out, I'm afraid that I would scare you all. Yi Hua and the others did not say anything. Alright, it's better for me to tell you two so that you two can be a bit more vigilant. Qin Huaxian was unable to contain himself. Do you think that if you don't say anything, I won't scare you too? Don't be so childish, alright? I heard that during this period of time, both the North and the South are not safe, especially the North where a lot of people have died. You two have to pay attention, don't get dragged into the matter. Qing Huaxian suddenly thought of something and asked gravely, Qingye, Yutong, how did the two of you get dragged into the matter of those big shots? Last time, the Empress even asked me about this matter. The two of you better explain it to me clearly. Just what exactly happened that night? This matter had been bothering Qing Huaxian for a long time. Luckily, the Empress did not pursue the matter that night. Although it was a bit strange, it was also a good thing. If the Empress were to pursue the matter, Qing family would be in trouble. In actuality, it was useless to ask about it now. Yi Xiao was already dead, and his son and the medical saint were still standing at the side of the small road like a tree. Qing Yutong explained, Dad, that night, that medical saint Song brought us to participate in the auction, but in the end, he ran away by himself, causing Big Sister and I to be very embarrassed. He is truly shameless. And then, did you see anything else? Qing Huaxian questioned. Qing Yutong was a movie empress, her acting skills were top-notch. Qing Yutong shook her head hesitantly. Qing Huaxian felt that it was true. My two daughters are so obedient, they don't even dare to kill a chicken, so why would they go and kill a person? This is too unreal. Chapter 573. No, I'm not going to go on a blind date, I'm going upstairs to sleep, bye-bye. After finished speaking, Qing Yutong ran upstairs. Wang Muqing let out a light sigh, feeling very helpless. Properly persuade your sister, don't always be like this, in a few years' time, she will be in her 30s, at that time, no one will want her anymore. Zi Han said gravely. Qingye laughed lightly, with Yutong's looks, are you afraid that you won't be able to find her? Yihua, don't you think so? And, that's right. Yihua nodded his head, feeling that there was a hidden meaning behind Qingye's words. Everyone helplessly shook their heads, regarding Qing Yutong's personal problems, they were also having a headache. Our daughter is so beautiful, what if other people covet her beauty? Thinking about it, I really don't feel at ease. At 9 p.m., Yihua and Qingye returned to the room. Qingye was carrying her son with her back facing Yihua and was currently feeding the child. Yihua took out a red packet, opened it and counted it. This family is quite generous, I quite like them. This is the first time I have seen a check inside a red packet, interesting, as expected of a rich family. Just as Yihua was sighing with emotion, a small hand instantly snatched over the check. They are quite generous, they even gave you a big red packet. Qingye looked at the red packet with a smile and even blinked her beautiful eyes at Yihua. The little fellow, Yi Yan, had eaten his fill and was sleeping peacefully. Yihua's brows wrinkled, what are you doing? Give it to me, this is mine. I'm not giving it to you, this man will become bad when he has money. Qingye mercilessly took away the check, not giving Yihua any private money. Yihua also mercilessly hugged onto Qingye's body, where did you hear such crooked logic from? What, only you are allowed to have crooked logic, but I am not allowed to have crooked logic. Qingye said, her tone carried a hint of acting coquettishly, causing Yihua's heart to thump. This Qingye is truly becoming more and more enchanting, every single action of hers is emitting out a different kind of charm. Today, you promised me, all kinds of positions. Yihua said lightly, he was already unable to hold himself back anymore. Qingye's face turned red, our son is still asleep, next time. Hee. I will not allow you to do it again. Yihua sneered, then carried Qingye and disappeared from the room, arriving at the bedroom on the second floor. Qingye hurriedly said, our son is still on the bed, don't worry about him. No one can hurt our son. After saying that, she kissed him, appearing very greedy. It had been a very long time since Qingye and Yihua had gotten intimate with each other. The fire within the two's heart was instantly ignited, and the two of them fell onto the big bed, crazily enjoying the pleasure within. Only when it was 3 a.m. in the morning did the two of them return back to Qing family. Qingya was completely exhausted, to the point that she didn't even want to move her fingers. Yihua was still clearly very excited, and he was completely unable to fall asleep. Furthermore, he even had the feeling of wanting to continue. It was a pity that Qingya's battle power was not good enough. Should he seek out the Empress to resolve this matter? However, after thinking about it, he decided not to. It was already too late. Even if he went, the Empress would not allow it. It was impossible to communicate with a pregnant woman. Leaning on the bed, Yihua looked at his wife and son, and he was very satisfied with the current situation. If it wasn't for the fact that I have yet to take revenge, it would be good for me to continue living like this. Gradually, Yihua sunk into contemplation. Last year, a lot of things happened, and the people in the cultivation world also suffered heavy losses. Of course, this was not my fault, it was all because of them killing each other, or maybe they were just asking for it. I just slightly provoked them, that's all. However, no matter what, I am still able to see the big picture, and it will be helpful for my future battles. However, here comes the problem. After losing so many cultivators, where am I going to go to make up for the lack of cultivators? With less people, the game doesn't seem to be fun anymore. The power of the entire cultivation world has fallen too much, and this is something that I didn't expect. How am I going to pull up the number of cultivators? This is a problem. Furthermore, that Justice and Order Alliance or whatever, I reckon that they want to form their own faction. I, the Supreme Overlord, should grant them a wish. How am I going to increase the number of cultivators? Yihua's brain quickly pondered. Earth's spiritual energy has dried up, causing ordinary people to be unable to sense it at all, and the powerful cultivators were able to absorb the meager amount of spiritual energy, causing the state of lacking spiritual energy. If I am able to envelop the entire world with spiritual energy, then a large number of cultivators will appear. Yihua felt that this idea was not bad. Cultivating is to strengthen one's body, and one's lifespan will also increase. Humans, you all should really be thankful for my benevolent heart. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yihua's mouth. He had already decided on what to do. Yihua left a mirror image on the bed to prevent it from being discovered by Qingya. Some things still have to be done secretly. I, the Supreme Overlord, never leave my name behind when doing good deeds, and even if I leave my name behind, it would only be a bad name. Right now, Yihua had arrived 10,000 meters above the ground and was looking down at the entire world. As long as Yihua willed it, Sunfall Heavenly Fire would be able to turn the entire world into a sea of flames. Yihua's hands could be seen condensing a huge amount of spiritual pressure, and the entire sky seemed to be trembling. At this moment, a lot of people felt that a terrifying amount of spiritual energy was slowly condensing, and some of them even thought that it was the end of the world. Because, a spiritual pressure like this wasn't something that a human would be able to withstand. Yihua laughed lightly, you all should really be thankful to me. I am the one who granted you all longevity and health. Of course, there is also death and despair, it all depends on how you all choose. Spiritual energy shall awaken. Along with Yihua's hands clenching, the huge amount of spiritual pressure in his hands exploded, forming a lump of white spiritual energy that enveloped the entire world. After doing all that, Yihua disappeared from the sky. Hugging onto his wife and son, he went to sleep. I am really curious about how the world will be like tomorrow. I am really so excited. However, right now, it was raining heavily outside, and of course, there was also the boundless spiritual energy that was lingering in the air. That dense spiritual energy was currently changing their physique. Even if they don't cultivate, their lifespan would still be doubled, and their immune system would also be very strong. Thus, it was impossible for them to catch a cold. Of course, to the cultivation world, all of this could be counted as good, but overall speaking, it was still not good. To them, this amount of spiritual energy was already enough. No matter how much spiritual energy they were given, it would be useless. The more spiritual energy is, the more precious it is. This logic was known to everyone. Right now, with how abundant spiritual energy was, wouldn't it mean that everyone would be able to cultivate? If that was the case, where would the status of the cultivation world be? For a special existence to return back to its ordinary state, wasn't this just asking for people's lives? Indeed, this move of Yi Hua's made the people in the cultivation world very vexed. Even the most ordinary cultivator would be respected and worshipped by others, but right now, that was something that couldn't be any more normal, who would still worship and worship him. However, to the powerful cultivators, this was still a good thing, because more people would respect them, and they wouldn't have to follow the rules set by the big shots, and they would be able to openly walk on the streets of the city. In just one night, Yi Hua had once again disrupted the situation in the cultivation world. On the contrary, he was excitedly standing under the heavy rain, and his expression was a bit strange. He looked like he was nervous, but also seemed like he was excited. After a long time, Lord Zhou finally calmed down. He raised his head slightly and looked towards the sky. God, you've finally opened your eyes. Is this the smell of spiritual qi? I, Lord Zhou, have finally made a comeback. Ha 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 ha. Lord Zhou ran madly under the torrential rain, as if he had gone mad. He arrived under a big tree, and Lord Zhou placed his palm on it. A burst of blue light scanned it. The ground beside them suddenly caved in, revealing a flight of stairs. A row of lights instantly lit up. Lord Zhou walked down the stairs. After walking for about 10 meters, Lord Zhou arrived at his own secret room and clapped his hands. The voice-activated lights were all turned on. If there was someone here, they would definitely be stunned by the things that Lord Zhou had collected. Lord Zhou had worked for various masters, and all the rewards he had received were all here. Lord Zhou had thought that he would never be able to use them in this lifetime, because some things needed to be powered by spiritual energy. Now that the spiritual energy had recovered and he had the strength, these treasures could finally be put to use. Lord Zhou could be seen admiring his treasures and casually picking up an ancient sword. Lord Zhou coldly snorted. Ancient godly item, Lord Zhou, have no interest in it. There were even fragments of ancient godly items, spiritual herbs, and so on placed at the side. These were all rewards given by Lord Zhou's previous masters. This also showed that Lord Zhou's previous masters were indeed valiant. They could casually give out such good things. This Lord also chooses his masters. Do you think that anyone can be my master? You are thinking too much. In the deepest part of the Pacific Ocean, Qi Shuwen had transformed into a small golden dragon and was currently devouring all kinds of fishes. When will this end? I have a huge debt. Luckily, I obtained the longevity fruit, or else I would have suffered a huge loss. I originally wanted to get first place, but Xan Ba is really too valiant. Just as Qi Shuwen was lamenting, he suddenly felt a sense of danger coming from behind him. He immediately used Divine Dragon Tail Whip. The seawater suddenly boiled, and Qi Shuwen blankly stared at the strange creature in front of him. What the F***ck is this fish? Why does it have 2 heads and legs? Its body is actually so huge. Why have I never seen it before? Qi Shuwen was stunned. The unknown creature in front of him made Qi Shuwen dumbfounded. Following the system's feedback, this fish was very valuable. Swallowing it could be exchanged for a huge amount of dragon energy. However, this fish seemed to look down on Qi Shuwen, this small golden dragon, and actually swam over. How could Qi Shuwen let go of such a good opportunity? He hurriedly chased after it. Gradually, he disappeared into the darkness at the bottom of the sea. However, in less than half a minute, a small golden dragon could be seen frantically running away, followed by a group of the same kind of fish. Ong! When Qi Shuwen was running away, suddenly there was a loud noise, and a large piece of darkness enveloped Qi Shuwen. Qi Shuwen raised his head to look, and he was so scared that his scalp went numb. What the hell is this? A giant whale that was several hundred meters long appeared above their heads. It immediately opened its bloody mouth, revealing rows of gleaming silver teeth that caused people to shudder. In a single mouthful, he had eaten those strange fishes just now. Qi Shuwen's mind was already stupefied. Since when was a whale able to swim so deep into the water, and also so long and so huge? With a panicked expression, Qi Shuwen felt that he had to hurry back home. However, on the way home, Qi Shuwen saw a lot of strange creatures, and he was scared to the point of shivering. Have you ever seen a tank-sized crayfish before? Damn it, all of them have mutated. Xianba lived in Yangshan City, and right now, he was also blankly looking at the heavy rain. Teacher, just what is going on? Xianba asked blankly as he sensed the rich spiritual energy around him. Feng Lao said faintly, someone opened the door of spiritual energy, this person is so terrifying. Let's not go and provoke that person then. Xianba, right now, the spiritual energy is abundant, train properly, the current situation is beneficial to us. Master, I understand, you can be at ease, alright, I will definitely train properly. Xianba nodded his head. This is my chance, the God bestowed me with such a strong spiritual energy, it is all for me to rise up. At this very moment, all kinds of caves appeared in the remote mountainous area, the low roar of monsters rang out in the dark forest, and the wild tiger's body instantly became huge, becoming even more bloodthirsty. Chapter 575. This was the revival of spirit energy. Humans were improving, and so were all the animals. On the Pacific Ocean, a luxurious cruise ship was sailing in the darkness. The light it emitted was very unique, like a candle in the dark. In the cockpit, a few crew members were checking the data to make sure it was safe. The cabin door was suddenly pushed open, and a foreigner in pajamas walked in. Captain! 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 The captain, who was wearing a thick cotton jacket, glanced around. Is everything safe? Report, everything is safe. The captain nodded and felt relieved. This was his last voyage. After this, he would retire. He couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Beep, beep, beep. At this time, the radar suddenly sounded, which surprised everyone. There shouldn't be anything else in this area of the sea. Could it be another ship? The crew immediately checked, and when they saw what was displayed on the radar, they were dumbfounded. What's wrong? The captain asked. The frequency of the radar warning grew faster and faster, as if they were about to collide. The captain panicked and hurriedly ran over, pushing his crew aside. He placed his hands on the radar and focused his gaze. His pupils immediately dilated. Leida's shadow indicated that a huge monster was rapidly approaching. What is this? The captain exclaimed. All the crew members were at a loss. Just as everyone was panicking, the ship shook violently. The huge creature was at the bottom of the ship. The captain hurriedly ran out and stood on the deck. Then, they could see that the sea was boiling, and they could vaguely see a giant creature swimming. God, what is this thing? The old captain was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat, and his face was filled with horror. Captain! Oh no, the cabin is flooded. The captain frowned and walked in again, shouting, "Close the gate. Call for help." Yes. The captain looked at the dark sea again. At this time, the sea was calm, as if it had never appeared. On the morning of the third day of Chinese New Year, the sun was bright and beautiful, and the warm sunlight shone into the bedroom through the window. Qinya could be seen snuggling into Yihua's embrace, and the little fellow, Yi Yan, was actually crawling onto his father's chest, and saliva was even flowing out from the corner of his mouth. "Why are you still sleeping?" Something happened. Dong Huang Baiji's figure suddenly appeared beside the bed. Yihua slowly opened his eyes and saw his son, as well as the saliva at the corner of his son's mouth. "My God, why is he the same as his mother, loves to drool, Qinya moaned a few times, then opened her beautiful eyes. "Baiji, you came so early in the morning." Yi Yan also opened his eyes at this time. Seeing his father's fierce gaze, he was so frightened that he threw himself into his mother's arms. "Look at this saliva, it is all inherited from you." Yihua pointed at the saliva on the pajamas and said helplessly. Qinya snorted, "He is still your son." "The hell, are the two of you even listening to what I'm saying?" Dong Huang Baiji was very speechless. "Why are the two of you still discussing about saliva now?" Qinya sat up and asked, "What happened?" "Just take a look outside and you will understand," Dong Huang Baiji said. While yawning, Qinya carried her son and opened the window. After that, he went into a daze, and he even rubbed his eyes as if he had seen a ghost. "What a big bird," Qinya muttered. A giant magpie was flying in the sky, like a Boeing 747 flying at low altitude. Yihua stood at the side and looked at the magpie. F***K, is the revival of spiritual energy able to cause a bird to become so big? What kind of situation is this? Qinya was very puzzled and completely didn't know what to say. "I can't be dreaming, right?" Dong Huang Baiji held onto her forehead. "Yihua, Qinya, don't the two of you feel anything?" "Wow! The spiritual energy has become a lot denser." Yihua cried out in surprise. As expected of someone who won the Best Male Lead award. "However, it has been a long time since I acted in a movie, so I'm a bit exaggerated." Qinya also felt it and cried out in surprise, "This spiritual energy, that's right. The spiritual energy has revived." After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji looked towards Yihua, seemingly asking if he was the one who did the revival of spiritual energy. Yihua said indifferently, "I was having sex with Qinya last night, you can ask her." Qinya didn't feel embarrassed. "Yihua was with me the entire time last night." After hearing what Yihua said, Dong Huang Baiji felt a bit embarrassed and cast an apologetic gaze towards her husband. After all, the strength that Yihua displayed on Cerulean planet was too strong, and Dong Huang Baiji could only think of this point. Yihua turned his head and looked towards the magpie that was in the sky. Suddenly, the magpie took a poop, and the poop actually covered the car that was in the middle of driving. The corner of Yihua's mouth twitched. "Luckily, I didn't say that I was the one who did it. This kind of consequence is out of my imagination. I will go back and deal with it first, everything is in a mess." After finished speaking, Dong Huang Baiji left the bedroom. Meanwhile, Yihua and Qinya just stood beside the window and looked at the magpie taking a poop. It was just like dropping a bomb, too scary. At this moment, Qing Yutong rushed into the bedroom. "Brother-in-law, big sister, something big happened. Quickly come and look at the news." Yihua and Qinya walked downstairs, and Qinya's entire family could be seen watching the news with a shocked expression on their faces. For example, the tiger in the zoo turned into a terrifying giant beast. Although the monkey didn't become bigger, its speed was extremely fast, and the supermarket was already occupied by the monkey. The cruise ship was opened by an unknown creature, but fortunately, there were no casualties. Some people were able to push a car, and some people were able to destroy an ATM machine with a single punch. In any case, everything was in a mess. This is an unexpected thing. I definitely didn't expect that it would become like this. This is too exaggerated. I wonder if I can take back the spiritual energy, but I reckon that I won't be able to. Setting a fire is easy, but putting it out is hard. Everything is in a mess. This is a financial crisis. We are going to go bankrupt. Qing Huaxian held onto his forehead and let out a long sigh. Qing Ye said in a low voice, Yi Hua, I have to go and help Baiji. I will leave my son to you to take care of him for a few days. Yutong, you come with me as well. After finished speaking, Qing Ye handed Yi Yan over to Yi Hua, then pulled his little sister upstairs and hurriedly rushed towards Voidless Realm. Before Yi Yan could even react, he had already arrived in his father's embrace. Does Mom not want me anymore? Mom threw me into an abyss of suffering, scared to the point that Yan peed in his pants. Yi Hua's expression stiffened, and he felt a warm current flowing through his body. My son actually peed in his pants. Damn it. Yi Yan looked at his father embarrassedly. Your dad, you scared Yan to the point that he peed in his pants. Don't blame me. Just as Yi Hua was preparing to go and change his clothes, a piece of news caught his attention. News from our station. Just a while ago, a group of people who call themselves the Justice Alliance stood out and used their powerful strength to help the people get rid of the scourge. At the same time, the same group of people appeared in various places, and they called themselves cultivators. Chapter 576. The TV screen just happened to switch to Wang Debao's face, who was killing a huge rat. With a swoosh, blood splattered everywhere. The camera was blurred, and he couldn't help but feel disgusted. A hand wiped the lens, and Wang Debao grinned. Welcome to the Righteous Alliance. We are a team that protects the safety of the world. We will go wherever there is danger. Bang! Before he could finish, he was snatched away by an eagle. Wife, save me. However, it was not just the Righteous Alliance. Many other people took this opportunity to recruit experts and maintain law and order. After all, they were all intelligent people. How could they give up on such a good opportunity? Qing Huaxian, who was originally frustrated, suddenly cried out in surprise, Seems like our company is going to change its line of work. Yi Hua carried his son and went upstairs to change his clothes. I feel that it is better for Voidless Realm to not get involved in this kind of matter. Even if Voidless Realm were to get involved in this matter, it wouldn't be of much use to them. This is a large-scale disaster, and it isn't something that a few thousand people from Voidless Realm would be able to solve. After putting on the diapers for his son and helping his son to put on his clothes, Yi Hua, the nanny father, finally let out a breath of relief. After that, Yi Hua began changing his clothes. Yi Yan sat on the bed and looked at his father with his big eyes. He didn't seem so fierce. It seemed like he wasn't a gift from someone who topped up his phone. After tying his son to his chest, Yi Hua prepared to go to Voidless Realm to take a look and give them some practical suggestions. In the desert outside of Voidless Realm, there was a huge poisonous scorpion that was crawling slowly, and there was also a huge cobra that was crawling on the ground. Inside Voidless Realm, Donghuang Baiji was currently discussing with Qing Ye about countermeasures. Qing Yutong's playful expression changed, and she gave the most sincere suggestion. At this moment, Yi Hua also appeared at the side. When the three women saw the way Yi Hua was dressed, the corners of their mouths twitched. Wasn't he a super nanny? When Qing Ye saw that her son stopped crying after being together with Yi Hua, she felt much more at ease. You all don't need to discuss anymore. A lot of cultivators have already stood out to resist, and it won't be long before the crisis is resolved. Yi Hua said faintly. The little guy, Yi Yan, sucked on his finger and watched curiously without making a fuss. Donghuang Baiji said gravely, even if the crisis within the city is resolved, what are we going to do about the crisis outside? For example, the animals within the desert have all evolved into spiritual beings. Yi Hua revealed an expression that said, You are all idiots. This is the law of nature. Do you intend to eliminate all dangers? Just you three women and the several thousand people from Voidless Realm. Dream on. Yihua ruthlessly struck down on her. I don't know what this woman is thinking about. Yihua's words dealt a huge blow to the three women. After pausing for a moment, Yihua said again, the revival of spiritual energy this time is a test for people. It also shows that we have entered a new era, and people have to adapt to the new era. It is the same for you guys. You guys are really stupid. Yi Yan, who was in his arms, nodded. There was nothing wrong with his father's words. When Qingye saw that her son was actually able to nod his head, she immediately felt that the situation wasn't good. I have only taught my son to Yihua for around 10 minutes, and my son is already being led astray. What are you doing? I will be taking care of the child for the next few days and nurture our relationship. Yihua refused to give the child to Qingye. This caused Qingye to become anxious, as if her husband was going to snatch the child away from her. Yihua, I still need someone to feed me milk. Qingye was fighting over Yihua, and Donghuang Baiji and Qin Yutong were shaking their heads. I can feed them too. Yihua said gravely. Wow, brother-in-law, you still have this kind of ability. Qin Yutong cried out in surprise. Qingye, who was standing at the side, bit onto her lips and had a look of, if you don't give me my son, I will cry, on her face. You all continue with the meeting, I will bring my son out to play. After finished speaking, Yihua left. Qingye stomped her feet in anger. Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly. Qingye, don't be angry, do you think that Yihua will be able to steal your son away? That's right, brother-in-law even knows how to feed. I am really curious how brother-in-law feeds his son. Qin Yutong began filling in the blanks in her mind. Let us continue to discuss about our future plans. Donghuang Baiji retracted her smile and said solemnly. Qingye and Qin Yutong also became serious. We cannot be careless with this matter. Meanwhile, Yihua also gathered all of his subordinates at Leisure Bar and began the first meeting of the new year. The location of the meeting had already changed from Leisure Bar's toilet to Leisure Bar's main hall. This caused Wei Chang and Lai Gu to let out a sigh of relief. Subordinate pays respect to your honor. Little honor. Everyone bowed down respectfully and shouted out loudly. Yi Yan, who was in Yihua's embrace, blinked his big eyes. Looking at his father's subordinates, Yi Yan's heart was filled with curiosity. Everyone, get up. Yihua said faintly. Thank you, your honor. Yihua took out a stick of cigarette, paused for a moment, then took it back. My son is still here, smoking doesn't seem to be too good. Sitting on the high chair, Yihua said faintly, you all should know about today's matter, right? All of Yihua's subordinates nodded their heads. Yesterday night, I felt that His Honor definitely has a new plan. In the new year, there must be a new atmosphere. I, the Supreme Overlord, have given out spiritual energy as a red packet for the world. Your Honor's great fortune, this will be a good fortune for mankind. All of Yihua's subordinates shouted out in unison once again, seemingly as if they had already thought of their lines beforehand. Yihua nodded his head, and Yi Yan, who was in Yihua's embrace, nodded his head as well, just that, Yihua didn't see it. Tell me, what is your goal for this year? It's over. His Honor is going to start the test. Lai Gu and Yi Zizi immediately shut up. If I don't participate in this kind of test, I will be scolded if I don't speak well. Seeing that all of Yihua's subordinates were not speaking, Yihua had no choice but to call out names. Yi Zizi, tell me what I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to do in the future. Ah, Yi Zizi cried out in surprise. What are you doing, Your Honor? You know that I am very lazy, I am not suitable to answer questions. What ah? Tell me. Yihua shouted out lightly. Yi Zizi puffed out her cheeks and said gloomily, His Honor wants to unify the world. Everyone, isn't it just a matter of time for His Honor to unify the world? As expected, I shouldn't have asked Yi Zizi. Looking at his honor's disappointed gaze, Yi Zizi lowered her head in grievance. It's not like I'm good at answering questions. Wei Chang, tell me what you think. Yi Hua said faintly. I feel that after the new year, all of my subordinates are stupefied. Wei Chang paused for a moment, then took a step forward and said respectfully, His Honor wants to use the same old trick again. Am I, the Supreme Overlord, such a senseless person? Would I use the same trick again after using it once? Yi Hua's brows wrinkled, he was very dissatisfied. All of Yi Hua's subordinates sensed His Honor's dissatisfaction and began to become nervous. Zhu Tian felt that it was time for him to tell His Honor. However, Brett hastened his pace as he bowed down and said, His Honor's goal should be Justice Alliance. Brett is smarter than all of you, at the very least, he is able to point out the root of the problem. Yi Hua said gravely. All of Yi Hua's subordinates lowered their heads and remained silent as they listened to His Honor's lecture. I didn't expect that the first meeting of the new year would be like this. Chapter 577. Yi Hua continued, Last year, the number of people in the cultivation world decreased greatly, and this time around, I wanted to replenish some fresh blood. Just that, I didn't expect that when I was replenishing some fresh blood, such a situation would still occur. However, right now, the situation is under control. What is worthy for me to be happy about is that there are people who are planning to use this opportunity to form their own faction. Justice and Order Alliance can be counted as the earliest to form their own faction, and right now, there are even more factions that are forming their own faction. All of these factions do not place Voidless Realm and Ing family in their eyes anymore. Speaking up to hear, Yi Hua paused for a moment, then looked towards his subordinates. Yi Zizi raised her hand and answered, His Honor wants us to kill those people? Yi Hua slapped the air in annoyance. Yi Zizi held onto her head and felt extremely wronged. I want to see how they fight, Wei Chang. Ask the Ing family to distribute the ancient godly items. Remember, every ancient godly item is divided into 3 fragments and slowly guide them. Understand? Yes. Wei Chang respectfully accepted the order. Brett, there's no need to keep an eye on the Righteous Alliance. If I know everything, it'll be boring. Yes. Brett lowered his head and accepted the order. Yi Hua stood up and emphasized once again, remember, we are law-abiding citizens, and we will never kill people. The subordinates' lips curled up into a sinister smile. Your Honor, subordinates will remember. The subordinates shouted out in unison. Brett, stay here. Everyone else, disperse. Yes. Before leaving, Zhu Tian took a look at His Honor. Could it be that His Honor is planning to persuade Brett again? His Honor is simply too good to me, and I can only repay His Honor's kindness by sacrificing my life. Sit. Yi Hua said faintly. This subordinate doesn't dare. Brett's expression didn't change in the slightest as he replied respectfully. Yi Hua didn't insist and said lightly, What do you intend to do next? We await your next command. Brett said in a low voice. What are you going to do while you wait? Brett said nothing. Actually, you should find someone to accompany you. Look at them, they already have their other half. After hearing what Zhu Tian said, Brett's expression finally changed, and he said gravely, Your Honor, I will never forgive Zhu Tian. When did I say that I would let you and Zhu Tian fight? Yi Hua laughed lightly. Brett slightly raised his head, Your Honor. I have found a husband for you. In a few days, you should meet him first and then get married. Brett was shocked by His Honor's words, and he hurriedly said, Your Honor, isn't this a little too hasty? Hasty? Or are you going to disobey my orders? Yi Hua's expression sunk, and he emitted out ice-cold killing intent. Brett hurriedly knelt on the ground with a terrified expression. This subordinate deserves to die. All right, you can go now. I'll inform you to go on a blind date. Remember, I'm not asking for your permission. Subordinate will listen to your honor's arrangements. Brett felt that his honor didn't seem to be joking, thus, he could only agree to it. Yihua waved his hand, and Brett bowed and retreated a few steps. After that, Brett disappeared from the hall. Pinching onto his son's cheeks, Yihua let out a breath. Every time I see Brett sitting at the side by himself and separated from the group, I will feel unhappy. This time, he also planned to suppress Brett, but where should he go to find the male lead? What a problem. Yeah, Yi Yen suddenly shouted. Yihua carried on to his son, and the father and son pair looked at each other deeply. After a while, Yihua asked, "Hungry?" The little fellow nodded his head. Yihua had no choice but to send the little fellow to Voidless Realm first. Just now, I wanted to feed my son spicy gluten, but unfortunately, I don't have any teeth. Seems like I have to learn how to make milk. 1 month passed by in the blink of an eye, and Yi Yen was now 1 month old. The little fellow was a bit mischievous now, and he had already learned how to walk when he was around 10 days old. Big sister Dong Huangli had been playing with little brother in Voidless Realm every day, causing a lot of chaos. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji were having a headache. In the beginning, everyone only felt that the 2 little princes were mischievous, but after a while, the 2 princes weren't just mischievous at all, they were simply the kings of destruction. Right now, the 2 siblings were currently standing in front of their mother with their heads lowered. The 2 siblings' faces were dirty, and it was clear that they had just done something bad. There were even chicken feathers on Yi Yan's head. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji looked at their children with a stern expression. Yihua sat at the side and drank his tea leisurely. The 2 siblings would send a distress signal to him from time to time. "Daddy, save me." In the past, Yi Yen would often shout for mommy to save me, but right now, it had completely changed. Mommy is the real culprit, and daddy is the warmest. Li. What's going on with you, bringing your little brother to cause trouble? Dong Huang Baiji started lecturing. Dong Huangli lowered her head and looked at her toes. Qinya reprimanded, "Yen, how did mommy teach you? You are already 1 month old, yet you are still so immature." Yihua almost sprayed out the tea that he was drinking. Isn't the demand a bit too high? How can a child be mature after 1 month old? Yi Yen muttered in a low voice. You still dare to talk back to me? Qinya, who had a bad temper, immediately took out a feather duster. Seeing that his mother was going to fly into a rage, Yi Yen immediately pounced into his father's embrace. "Daddy, mommy is going to hit me again." Yihua placed down the teacup and said faintly, "Qinya, your demand is too high, Yen, is still so young." Yi Yen nodded his head. "Mommy's demand is too high, she actually wants me to memorize poems, write poems, and other random things right now. I am only 1 month old, other people's children are still sleeping in the cradle when they are 1 month old." Qinya snorted coldly, "Yihua. Don't protect Yen, see if I don't beat him to death today." Dong Huangli couldn't help but laugh secretly, and her mother just happened to see her laughing. Li. You are still laughing." Dong Huang Baiji could be seen taking out a feather duster. Dong Huangli imitated her little brother and pounced into her father's embrace. "Daddy, mommy is going to use domestic violence, you too, enough. How can there be mothers like you two, hitting children for no reason?" Yihua's expression turned cold. "Even I can't bear to hit the 2 of them." Qinya snorted, then shook the feather duster. "Tonight," Yihua let out a cold laugh. "To actually use this kind of thing to threaten me, do you two think that I will compromise? Li, Yen, will the 2 of you listen to Daddy's words?" Yihua asked seriously, as if he was going to bring the 2 little fellows away from home. Dong Huangli and Yi Yen nodded their heads vigorously. "All right then, listen to Daddy's words and just hit mommy a few times." Dong Huangli, Yi Yen, While holding onto the feather duster, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji walked over with a strange smile on their faces, scaring the two little fellows to the point that they started trembling. Little brother runs fast, Donghuang Li pulled onto her little brother and ran out. Chapter 578. You too, don't be so strict, children at this age should naturally play around. Yihua persuaded carefully. In the past, you two even said that you two are the same. Qinya laughed, you can't be like this, children need to be educated from a young age. Look at Yen he has been making noise everywhere, and Ali has been led astray by Yen Donghuang Li doted on her little brother quite a bit, and sometimes, she even helped her little brother to take the blame. It's really good to have this kind of elder sister. It's normal for a boy to be a bit naughty. Yihua sighed lightly. If Yen was like a girl and didn't make noise, Yihua wouldn't like it. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head, what Yihua said is right, don't be too strict. You too. Qinya snorted, then sat down and drank her tea. Let's talk about proper business. Recently, that Justice Alliance has been in the limelight. Donghuang Baiji sat beside Yihua and poured herself a cup of tea. Donghuang Baiji was a bit irritated. This Justice Alliance had recruited quite a lot of people in this 1 month, and they had even obtained the Good Citizen Award. They had been killing spirit creatures everywhere, restoring order to all the big cities. The problem was, a lot of families had withdrawn from the management of the big powers, some joined the Justice Alliance, and some even established their own families. In short, they did not want to be managed by the big powers anymore. However, Voidless Realm and Ning family both remained silent, giving people a kind of misconception, as if they were tacitly agreeing to this situation, causing even more families to withdraw from the big powers. Other than Justice Alliance, another organization called Peace Association emerged, and they could be counted as the two most snobbish and powerful organizations right now. They didn't differentiate between North and South, and they would go wherever there was trouble. Voidless Realm and Ning family seemed to have faded out of people's sight. In the past, people didn't even mention these two big powers, and right now, newcomers didn't even know that these two big powers existed. Furthermore, in this short 1 month, more and more regulations were introduced one after another. It couldn't be helped, they had to adapt to the new environment. For young people, such a world was too exciting. It was just like a fantasy world in a novel. They could practice powerful martial arts and fly in the sky. They could destroy the world with a wave of their hands and feet. They could be a peerless hero or a devil incarnate. Some businessmen were also looking for business opportunities. They opened various academies and hired experts from the cultivation world to be teachers. The whole world was slowly moving towards a new height, and the benefits still outweighed the disadvantages. The corresponding ranking system would also be introduced in a month's time. The entire world would be unified to prevent chaos. The stars, moons, and suns were used to determine the levels of strength. The 5 stars were upgraded to the moon and the 5 moons were upgraded to the sun. It was simple and easy to understand. However, one shouldn't underestimate this power level. This was the result that all the experts came up with. Right now, there weren't any Sun-class elites in the world, and there were very few Sun-class elites in March or April. Wang Debao and Bai Cixin were only 2 moons and 4 stars. Feng Tian was a 4 moons expert and could be considered an influential figure. Qing Tian had also been tested and was also a 4 moons expert. However, Feng Tian and the others did not believe that Qing Tian was deliberately suppressing his strength. With 4 moons imprinted on his chest, he would be respected when he walked out. Now, people would look at his chest first and not at his money. Because, no matter how much money one had, one would still have to kneel down and lick a powerful cultivator. Furthermore, people nowadays like to form parties to fight monsters. After all, the bodies of those animals were all treasures that could be made into spiritual artifacts. There were even some people who found some caves that were guarded by powerful demons. It felt like they were fighting a dungeon, just that, there was only one chance to fight a dungeon like this, and if one was slightly careless, one would lose their life. Those who didn't have a bit of strength could only watch from the sidelines, not daring to move. Meanwhile, the desert outside of Voidless Realm was already classified as a forbidden area. There were too many ferocious beasts in that place, and if one were to come here, one would basically die. Furthermore, the sea was rather dangerous as well. Without a few powerful figures guarding the sea, no one would dare to go out to sea. I really don't know what you two are worried about. What does the strength of the Justice and Order Alliance have to do with us? You two just have to do your own part. Why are you two still caring about other people's opinion? Yihua couldn't understand the two women. After all, Donghuang Baiji had been an empress for so long, and right now, she was worried about personal gains and losses. In the past, she controlled the entire north, but now, since other people don't even give a damn about them, how could they possibly feel comfortable? Furthermore, other powers were gradually becoming bigger and bigger, and they had obtained everyone's acknowledgement, causing Qingye and Donghuang Baiji to feel sullen. In other words, he was unhappy and displeased. Hearing Yihua's words, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji became like a deflated balloon and became dispirited. You two, in the past, you two didn't fight for anything, and now that someone else is fighting for something, you two are acting like this. Hee, women. Yihua teased his two wives to his heart's content, expressing that he was feeling very good. Donghuang Baiji refuted, "It's all because you didn't allow it. What are you two women trying to do? Don't you know how to keep a low profile? Why don't you learn from me? As a mother, shouting about killing every day, what a scandal. This is the jealousy that comes from a woman. Even Qingye and Donghuang Baiji have this kind of bad habit." The two wives pouted and remained silent. Luckily, the little fellows weren't present. If not, their image would definitely be ruined if they saw their mother acting like this. Rest assured, a Voidless Realm will forever be a big power. This is something that no one can change. They are just consoling themselves. Yihua said faintly, then walked out of the room. He wanted to let the two women calm down. Because there was going to be a big show today, and Yihua was going to join in the fun. Other than Zhu Tian, everyone knew about this. And that was Brett's blind date. It was today. Blind date. Gold Raider Colonel Do Fusher. Wei Chong was truly unable to find a reliable person, and he only heard from Death Mage that there was such a person who was rather reliable. Actually, the Blood Demon had wanted to put on a show at the start and act as the matchmaker. What if the show turned out to be real? Brett was so beautiful, so sexy, so compatible with the Blood Demon. They were a perfect match. At the start, Yihua only had this choice, but the sudden appearance of Do Fusher made Yihua change his view. After all, Do Fusher was an outsider, and this was much better. Do Fusher was also very surprised. Ever since he separated from his big brother and sister-in-law, Do Fusher started doing his old profession of catching ghosts. As for digging up tombs, forget about it, those tombs are all for scamming children. Suddenly, Big Brother looked for me and said that I have a very important mission, and after I complete it, I can join the group. There's a power outage today. There's a power outage today. This is so depressing. Chapter 579. Hearing such news, Do Fusher became very excited. He had wanted to join the group long ago, but he didn't have any contribution points. Now, the opportunity is right in front of me. As long as I complete the mission, I will be able to worship the big boss. Just thinking about it makes me excited. However, Do Fusher suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did he have to look for me? Big Brother is so powerful, is there anything that he can't do? This mission is definitely going to be very dangerous. Do Fusher felt that he had to give it his all. If he wins, he will join the group and worship the big boss. If he loses, he will cry. When he heard the mission, Do Fusher was stupefied. I am actually asked to go on a blind date. Although I am just putting on an act, Do Fusher is already very satisfied. This isn't even considered a mission at all. It's just a small mission, I can settle it in a few minutes. However, Do Fusher still doesn't know who his blind date partner is. There is still Ju Tian who is eyeing him covetously. In a coffee shop in Longpan City, Do Fusher saw his blind date partner and was stupefied by the other party's appearance and aura. This is the blind date partner. Why does he look so good? I'm finished, my heart is beating so fast, I'm going to die, this appearance, this figure, this is too perfect. Meanwhile, Brett was also observing Do Fusher, and her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. I don't understand why His Honor arranged such a weak man, he is 10,000 times worse than Ju Tian. Look at him, he doesn't have any confidence at all. A man like him is actually blushing. If not for His Honor's order, he would have already left. However, Yi Hua and the others were standing not far away from Brett. Of course, this was not something that others could see, not even Brett noticed. After all, this was a spell cast by an overlord. If Brett was able to notice it, it meant that his strength had reached the pinnacle. His Honor, this arrangement of yours is too bad, he isn't worthy of Brett at all. Lai Gu muttered. Even if you want to put on a show, you should at least find a stronger one. Yi Hua said faintly, it is precisely because he is weak. Wei Chang nodded his head. He understood what His Honor meant. Ju Tian is probably going to faint from anger. I didn't expect Brett to find such a weak person. His Honor is truly becoming more and more intelligent, subordinates admire him greatly. Right now, not only does he have to look at the big picture, he also has to take care of the subordinates' private life. Did you send out any messages? Yi Hua asked indifferently. If the male lead is missing from this matter, then what is the point of playing with the hammer? Wei Chang said respectfully, Your Honor can be at ease, we have already leaked out a bit of information in the group, I believe that Ju Tian should already know about it. That's good. Absolute Heaven must not find out about this matter. This subordinate obeys. Everyone looked at the couple again. Do Fusher lowered his head and took a sip of the coffee on the table before asking in a low voice, What do you usually do? Yi Hua and the others immediately face-bombed. Can't you King ask some questions that have technical content? Do you want me, the Supreme Overlord, to teach you how to go on a blind date? Brett almost couldn't help but slap him. He couldn't compare to Absolute Heaven at all. Murder. Brett said coldly. Puff. Do Fusher couldn't hold it in, and a little bit of coffee flowed out of the corner of his mouth. This woman was too cold. She killed people at the slightest provocation. Couldn't she be a little more subtle? Like fighting and killing. Actually, I'm good at killing people too. Do Fusher calmed himself down. His mission was to gain Brett's favor, but when he thought about how it was fake, he felt a little sad. What if Brett is really unable to extricate herself from falling in love with me? When the time comes, I would have to tell her that everything is fake. It would be too hurtful. After all, Do Fusher can be counted as an outstanding man. Back then, even my sister-in-law had thoughts about me. It's fortunate that I calmed myself down. If not, I would have let down my big brother. Brett sneered, How many did you kill? Can we not talk about this bloody topic and talk about Key, and talk about the world instead? Not interested. Let's talk about food then. There is a newly opened hotpot restaurant that is especially good, how about we go there? Not interested. Then, what are you interested in? Murder. Do Fusher, this is simply impossible to communicate with, we are not even on the same channel at all. Brett suddenly wrinkled her brows and said faintly, come and sit over here. Ah. I told you to come over, so come over. Brett's beautiful eyes turned cold, scaring Do Fusher to the point that he almost peed in his pants. Do Fusher immediately sat beside Brett, and Brett lightly leaned onto Do Fusher's shoulder. Just like that, Do Fusher panicked. So fragrant, it's really fragrant, is this the fragrance of a woman? That's not right, we were just talking about murder just a moment ago, aren't you being too careless? After all, I, Do Fusher, am not a casual man. Suddenly, a man who wore a white suit walked into the coffee shop. The man's expression was frighteningly gloomy, and it seemed as if he would explode at any moment. The man who came was precisely Ju Tian. When he saw the contents of the WeChat group, he almost couldn't help but release his spiritual pressure. Brett actually went on a tryst. Which bastard dares to date my, Ju Tian's, woman, is he tired of living? Bringing along his anger, Ju Tian directly rushed over. Furthermore, when he saw the cold and arrogant Brett leaning onto a man's shoulder, a trace of an arc actually appeared on the corner of Ju Tian's mouth. This arc is something that even Ju Tian himself has never seen before. Your Honor, will Ju Tian go berserk? Wei Chang asked in a low voice. Right now, Ju Tian is very unstable. Yi Hua shook his head. To be able to endure under such a situation, Ju Tian can be considered to be strong. Green hat, just thinking about it makes me excited. Lai Gu said sneakily. Tang Wei, who was at the side, said tenderly, Brett only likes absolute heaven. This sentence was rather pertinent. Don't look at how stubborn Brett was right now. In truth, his heart was filled with absolute heaven. No matter what kind of person he was, he would compare himself to absolute heaven. It could be seen just how important absolute heaven was in Brett's heart. At this moment, when Do Fusher saw absolute heaven, he instantly felt hostility. Coupled with Brett's previous actions, this person was definitely absolute heaven's ex-boyfriend. Hee. How could I, Do Fusher, be afraid of such a pretty boy? Floating Do did not know of absolute heaven's identity at all. If he had known, he would not have accepted this quest even if he was beaten to death. Absolute heaven walked over with a sullen expression on his face. He then sat down on the opposite side, his eyes fixed on the two of them. However, Do Fusher performed a shocking feat, causing Yi Hua and the others to go into a daze. What a good fellow! How daring! Do Fusher grabbed Brett's shoulder and shouted at absolute heaven, what are you looking at? Haven't you seen a beautiful woman and a handsome guy before? This brat is not bad, Your Honor, where did you find this weirdo from? Lai Gu's heart was filled with admiration. Even I don't dare to speak to Ju Tian like this, and yet, this fellow is actually not afraid. Chapter 580. Yi Hua said faintly, Wei Chang was the one who found me. Lai Gu then asked Wei Chang, where did you find him? Wei Chang said indifferently, it was Death Mage who found me. Lai Gu then looked towards Death Mage and asked, brother, where did you find him? GGG, Imperial Translation, there is no longer any meaning to it, that brother has to live. On the other side, Do Fusher's eyes bulged as he displayed his most savage side, staring straight at absolute heaven. Why do I feel that this expression is a bit similar to the Lai Gu in the past? Wei Chang interrupted. Lai Gu was very confused and asked curiously, how is that possible? The days when you were a dog. Lai Gu, not to mention, Do Fusher's ferocious appearance was very similar to that of an arrogant husky. I'm going to be terrified soon, absolute heaven coldly stared at Do Fusher. He was prepared to kill this lowly ant in front of him. Even he was willing to accompany Brett on a blind date. He was overestimating himself. However, Do Fusher still did not know that absolute heaven was about to make a move. Do Fusher extended his chin forward, revealing a row of teeth as if he was about to bite someone. Brett said lightly, "He was introduced by our boss. Try touching him if you dare." Zhu Tian was startled. His honor arranged this. How could this be? Isn't his honor standing on my side? Boss saw that I was too lonely, so he arranged a man for me. Brett slowly hugged Do Fusher's arm and said in a sweet voice. Do Fusher's ferocious expression was a little strange, because within this ferocious expression, there was even a hint of shyness. This kind of expression had already caused Li Gu to burst into laughter. This brother is really too funny. In the past, the Green and Red brothers were also very funny. Now that they have a girlfriend, they are much more mature. Sensing the fragrance around him, Do Fusher coldly snorted, "Who are you? Can't you see we're on a date? Hurry up and get lost." Everyone, Wei Chang let out a sigh. Even if this matter is over, this world of solitude, to actually shout, scram, in front of absolute heaven. Do Fusher was so arrogant, and the source of his arrogance was Brett. With a beauty by his side, how could his aura be weak? What would he do if he was looked down upon? This man was handsome, but his nails were thicker than hers. Moreover, his attitude was very bad. It was obvious that he was here to snatch her away. If the person was snatched away, then wouldn't his mission be ruined? Then the matter of him joining the team would be gone. No. He had to become a hero. The blue veins on Zhu Tian's forehead bulged. This man actually dared to publicly insult him, and even told him to scram. Absolute Heaven's entire body was in a terrible state. However, his rationality still prevailed, and he did not accidentally kill off Floating Do. If Floating Battle Do was really killed now, then he would have died in vain. When Do Fusher thought about this matter in the future, he could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. It was as though he had taken a stroll through the gates of hell. Brett. What's the point of doing this? Absolute Heaven questioned coldly. Seeing Brett hugging another man, Absolute Heaven felt extremely displeased in his heart, and every hair on his body stood on end. Brett giggled, stretching out a slender finger and stroking Do Fusher's face. "He's much stronger than you." Seeing Brett's frivolous actions, Absolute Heaven fiercely slammed his palm on the table. How could the table withstand Absolute Heaven's slap? The surrounding people were quite frightened. Li Gu rubbed his chin and said faintly, "This is the first time I've seen Absolute Heaven lose his temper." Wei Chang silently nodded his head. It seems like Brett had truly angered this cold cat. How is he stronger than me? Absolute Heaven questioned. His pair of eyes were about to pop out, and his handsome face was incomparably fierce. Brett's eyes slightly narrowed. "He knows to protect me, what about you?" Absolute Heaven's expression changed. He was unable to refute Brett's words. For so many years, he had never treated Brett well, and the words he spoke the most were rejection. Looking at Absolute Heaven's hesitant face, Brett suddenly felt a little sour in his heart, but he did not say anything. However, right now, Do Fusher was about to say something. "Did you see what the beauty said just now?" She said that he knew to protect her, and her manliness was bursting. Do Fusher once again performed a magnificent feat, shocking everyone present. "Brat! Where are you from? Do you know who I am?" Do Fusher pushed Absolute Heaven, who was in a daze, onto the sofa and sat down. Lv Liang, who was watching from the back, raised her thumb. This is a real man, wanting a beauty more than his life. Yi Hong felt that there was nothing wrong with Do Fusher's fierce words. Meanwhile, Zi Shan and the others were dumbstruck and covered their mouths. Absolute Heaven was actually pushed down by Do Fusher. He even dared to be so arrogant. Can't he be more low profile? Yihua felt that there was nothing wrong with Do Fusher pushing down absolute heaven. This absolute heaven still needs a beating to wake him up. When Brett saw absolute heaven being pushed down by Do Fusher, he felt great in his heart. Absolute heaven, to think that you would have such a day. Fusher, let's go and get a room. Brett stood up while holding on to Do Fusher's arm. He even said something like getting a room, wanting to anger absolute heaven to death. Do Fusher felt that happiness came too suddenly. Didn't we agree to put on an act? Why did we end up getting a room right after putting on an act? Could it be that this is one of the benefits from the mission? Boss treats me too well, I worship him in my heart. I know of a hotel that has a pretty good waterbed. Do Fusher revealed an evil smile. In absolute heaven's eyes, Do Fusher was simply an unpardonable criminal. I'll listen to you, Brett said sweetly, as if she was allowing Do Fusher to bully her. Do Fusher actually hugged onto Brett's slender waist. This action of Do Fusher's was rather worrying. Do Fusher was afraid that Brett wouldn't be able to endure it and would end up F** King Do Fusher. Fortunately, for the sake of absolute heaven, Brett didn't say anything and even maintained a smile on her face, and even called Do Fusher sweetly. This caused Do Fusher to feel extremely happy. This voice sounds so good, it's so coquettish that I can't stand it anymore. I wonder if it will be even better when we get to the hotel. Stop right there. Absolute heaven shouted out coldly. The people in the coffee shop looked towards Do Fusher's direction once again. There were even a few martial artists who had 1 star imprinted on their chests curiously sizing up Do Fusher and Do Fusher. Do Fusher stopped his footsteps, then said in a low voice, "This ex-boyfriend of yours is really hateful." "That's right, can you help me hit him?" "I will let you feel better in a while," Brett said tenderly. Do Fusher's expression immediately became excited. Just based on that last sentence, I will climb a mountain of swords and dive into a sea of flames. Do Fusher could be seen once again performing a shocking feat. This time, even Yihua was stupefied. Do Fusher turned around and walked towards absolute heaven. When absolute heaven saw Do Fusher walking towards Do Fusher, absolute heaven was currently pondering whether or not he should disobey his honor's order and kill off this damned man. Bang! Just as absolute heaven was pondering, a punch actually landed onto his face. Chapter 581. The speed at which Fusher punched out was not fast, as if he was a normal person. However, it was precisely because of this that his punch landed fiercely on absolute heaven's face. Bang, bang. Absolute heaven never thought that this man would really dare to hit him. Brett had also never expected that absolute heaven would actually not dodge. However, he still felt very satisfied in his heart. Well fought. Yihua and the others started to admire Zhu Tian. For you to be able to land a punch on Zhu Tian, it means that your courage has already passed the test. Yihua said to Wei Chang, "If Do Fusher is still alive, after this matter is over, just take him in." This subordinate obeys. Wei Chang said respectfully. Lai Gu mumbled, "I haven't even slapped Zhu Tian's face before." Do Fusher felt very good, he raised his fist and shouted, "Brat! Don't think that I won't hit you just because you're handsome. Even if your boss comes, I'm not afraid. Do you know who my boss is? He's known as the Jianghu's brother Zhen. I'm afraid you'll be scared to death if I tell you." "Alright, ignore him. Let's go." Brett walked over and pulled Do Fusher back. However, absolute heaven did not pay any attention to him. Instead, he pulled Brett into his embrace, cupped Brett's face with both hands, and kissed him. Do Fusher was stunned. "You pretty boy, you actually dared to disrespect my blind date girl in front of me. Let's see if Papa doesn't beat you to death today." After saying so, absolute heaven raised his fist and punched towards absolute heaven. Unfortunately, someone was even faster than floating dough. Brett sent absolute heaven flying with a single punch, and a large hole appeared in the roof. Do Fusher stared at Brett in shock. You're even more vicious than me. You've even sent someone flying. Yi Hua sighed. This Ju Tian's guts are not small, to directly kiss me just like that. Brett can already be considered to be good if he only punched me once. Those one-star martial artists weren't calm at all. They thought that it was just a fight between ordinary people, but they didn't expect it to be so powerful. One punch was enough to send someone flying into the sky. Brett wiped his lips, and his face turned slightly red. He cursed absolute heaven for being shameless in his heart. He actually forcefully kissed me. Bastard! Brimming with anger, Brett stomped on the ground, causing it to crack. Then, he shot out like a rocket. Seeing this, Do Fusher also followed. That damned man actually dared to take advantage of my blind date. Later, I'll let him see my own strength. I'm the famous gold raiding captain. Finding dragons and exploring caves is as easy as flipping my hand. These main characters had all changed locations, and Yi Hua and the others also followed along and changed locations. The good show had just begun. Absolute Heaven vs. Brett. Brett, who had soared into the sky, stood in the void, coldly looking at Absolute Heaven. Do you know what you were doing just now? I know, it feels really good. Absolute Heaven's lips were still stained with some lipstick, but at this moment, Absolute Heaven felt really good. Brett was even angrier and was ready to teach this damned man a lesson. Stop. Floating world arrived late. Who asked them to fly so high? He had only managed to climb up after much difficulty. When Brett saw that Do Fusher had arrived, his brows furrowed. Brett, let me. After saying that, Do Fusher took out his peachwood sword, bit his finger, and smeared his blood on the wooden sword. Instantly, a faint red light bloomed. You pretty boy. To actually dare to bully my woman, don't you know whose underling I am? If you wait for my big brother to come, I'll tell you, you will be finished. It's too early for you to admit defeat now. Do Fusher stood behind Brett, pointed his sword towards Absolute Heaven, and shouted out loudly. Looking at that serious look on Do Fusher's face, he doesn't seem to be joking. Absolute Heaven sighed in his heart. He somewhat understood his honor's meaning, but where did his honor find such a weirdo? She is my woman. Do you understand? Absolute Heaven didn't want to talk too much with Do Fusher. After all, Do Fusher was the one who was called over by his honor. That punch I gave Brett just now can be considered as me letting Brett feel good. Do Fusher shouted out coldly, What your woman? Stop boasting shamelessly. If you still don't admit defeat, I'm going to call you Big Brother. My big brother's big brother is even more powerful. My big brother's big brother's big brother is unrivaled. It's not that I'm boasting, but I can kill you with just a flick of my finger. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. This Do Fusher is really, really good at boasting. You can leave. Absolute Heaven said faintly. Do Fusher looked at Absolute Heaven in disbelief. You are actually not afraid. Let me tell you, I am going to call my big brother over right now. After speaking, Do Fusher really took out his phone and called Death Mage. However, Death Mage's phone was already switched off. Sorry, the number that you have dialed is currently switched off. Do Fusher was a bit embarrassed. He took a look at Brett, then looked at Absolute Heaven, then said, Don't be anxious, my big brother is very busy, let me call a few more people. Death Mage, who was standing in the group, was speechless. Even I am going to call my big brother Absolute Heaven, and you are still calling me over. Don't you know that this will make things even more awkward? Little friend, you can go back now, there is nothing else for you to do here. Absolute Heaven said lightly. Do Fusher was angered. To actually call me little friend, there is a beauty by my side, I cannot lose my face. Just you wait, I am going to call my sister-in-law, you are finished. Chapter 582. Starting a fight just because of a disagreement, this truly makes one blush with shame. But right at that moment, another voice sounded out, stop. The two people who were about to start a fight stopped. Yi Hua, who was standing at the side, wished that he could slap the person who shouted for them to stop to death. It isn't easy for me to watch my subordinates fight, what are you guys doing here? Not only Yi Hua felt disappointed, his subordinates felt the same as well. Half of their pants were taken off, and they actually came to inspect the room. Don't you think that this is infuriating? Only 2 moon rank experts could be seen. They rushed straight over with vigilance in their eyes. The 2 people stopped in the air at the side, and one of them shouted out, "We are from the Peace Association, fighting is prohibited in the sky above the city." Peace Association. Yi Hua had only heard of it, but this is the first time I have come into contact with this group of people. I wonder who this big shot of the Peace Association is. Will he come and find trouble with me? Then I will have a reason to retaliate. Just thinking about it makes me a little happy. Zhu Tian and Brett looked at the people from the Peace Association coldly, and the latter immediately felt that his heart skipped a beat. These 2 people could be counted as people from the cultivation world previously, if not, they wouldn't have a moon. Just that, Longtan City was in the south, and Zhu Tian had only appeared in the north, so they didn't recognize Zhu Tian at all. Fighting in the sky above the city without permission, you will be detained for 15 days. Follow us. One of the men was very arrogant, he didn't differentiate the strength of both sides at all. Dou Fusher shouted out, "It is all this man's fault, that beauty is innocent. Don't speak, you come along as well." The corner of Dou Fusher's mouth slightly twitched, "You all are too indiscriminate, who gave you all the right to do this?" "Who?" "You all don't have the qualifications to know, you all just need to know one thing, in the future, what the Peace Association says is the law, if anyone dares to resist, they will be killed without mercy." Yi Hua and the others were very surprised. I didn't expect this Peace Association to be so arrogant, they truly live up to their name. Look at those big shots from the Justice and Order Alliance, they are all very low profile, they can be dismissed with just pickled cabbage noodles. Brett snorted coldly, "What bullshit association, you all dare to shout in front of me." After finished speaking, she slapped the air. The man who didn't curse was sent flying. Judging from his height, he was at least out of the atmosphere. Why did I not say anything, and the one who slapped me was at me? Did you slap the wrong person? The man who scolded them was stunned. Who are these 2? They sent a moon-class elite flying with one slap. You all actually dare to murder a law enforcer, this is a death sentence, you all just wait, you all are finished. After finished speaking, the law enforcer turned around and ran, and he was the kind that didn't care about his life anymore. Brett snorted and a jade bow appeared in her hand. She pulled the bow and shot it. From the ground, it looked like a shooting star, exceptionally beautiful. The man died in midair without any pain. Brett, who had insulted the 7 deadly sins, did not want to live anymore. Zhu Tian froze, he didn't dare to be careless, because that arrow had once again flown back. As one of the 7 deadly sins, absolute heaven knew of Bright's weakness. Bright was extremely afraid of getting into close combat. As long as Bright got into close combat, Bright's battle prowess would decrease by half. Just as Brett was about to let his guard down, absolute heaven displayed his abnormal speed and locked Brett in place with a retreating stance. Lai Gu exclaimed in admiration, "Your posture isn't bad." The girls at the side couldn't help but roll their eyes at Lai Gu. In Lai Gu's eyes, everything has a different meaning. When Dou Fusher saw this, he was stunned as well. He felt that he didn't have enough spirit chi. Beauty. Hold on, I will go and call Big Brother. After finished speaking, Do Fusher helplessly descended from the sky. If not, he would have to free fall and fall from the sky. Ju Tian tightly held on to Brett, and at this moment, Brett's weakness was revealed. The golden arrow was flying towards the two of them. Is Brett planning to perish together with Yi Hua? Yi Hua's expression became a bit grave, and the people at the back also became nervous. The relaxed atmosphere immediately became heavy. F***K, have these two people gone mad? Li Gu couldn't help but shout out. Yi Hua didn't say anything. Brett should be trying to scare Ju Tian. Ju Tian hugged onto Brett tightly and said beside Brett's ear, if death can make you forgive me, I am willing. Ju Tian. Even if you die, I will not forgive you. Brett shouted out, and the golden arrow immediately shone with a bright light. The golden arrow flew towards the two of them while emitting a terrifying aura. Yi Hua swallowed his saliva. What is this Ju Tian planning to do? Right now, Yi Hua was considering whether he should make a move or not. If an accident were to occur, it would be hard to say what would happen. After all, Brett's jade bow was no joke. After charging up its power, it would be able to instantly kill an overlord. Seeing that the golden arrow was getting closer and closer to the two of them, Brett had already closed her beautiful eyes. My heart is tired. I am really tired. If I die like this, his honor won't force me to get married, and I will be able to make Ju Tian suffer for the rest of his life. Thinking about it, it is quite worth it. How could Ju Tian possibly let Brett die? He knew that Brett would definitely not stop until he got his revenge. Therefore, Ju Tian suddenly threw Brett, who was in his embrace, away. The golden arrow that carried along the aura of death pierced through Ju Tian's abdomen, and a fist-sized hole appeared on Ju Tian's abdomen. Yi Hua was stupefied, everyone was stupefied, Brett was also stupefied. As one of the 7 deadly sins, even if it was an overlord's weapon, it would be hard for them to injure each other. Furthermore, Brett had charged up his power for this attack, and it wasn't as simple as just a stab. Absolute Heaven violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body sank into darkness as he fell from the sky. Brett just stared blankly. It was as if he had been struck by lightning, and his head was buzzing. There was no longer any meaning in hiding. All of them revealed themselves. Yi Hua hurriedly stabilized Ju Tian, who was falling to the ground. The wound on Ju Tian's abdomen was extremely terrifying, and it was currently corroding Ju Tian's body. Without much time to think, Yi Hua immediately brought Ju Tian back to Leisure Bar. If Ju Tian doesn't receive treatment soon, he might die. When everyone returned to the Leisure Bar, none of them spoke a word. Brett was still in a dazed state as he foolishly looked at Absolute Heaven, who was on the table. Yi Hua took out all of the healing medicines, such as Clear Soul Condensing Pill, 6-in Chi Returning Pill, Supreme Spirit Gathering Pill, Sky Bewitching Ganoderma Grass, and so on, Suihan Buddha Chaos Pagoda. An exquisite pagoda could be seen appearing in Yi Hua's hand, and the pagoda slowly floated onto Ju Tian's body. The pagoda then emitted a Buddha's light that shone onto Ju Tian's body. Meanwhile, Ju Tian slowly changed back to his original form, a cat with strange fur laid powerlessly on the table. However, his chest was still moving up and down, causing everyone to let out a breath of relief. It's good that he didn't die, Your Honor, Ju Tian is here. Wei Chang asked respectfully. Thanks to my brothers for the tickets. Chapter 583. Yi Hua took a look at Brett, then said gravely, this attack nearly took his life. Right now, we can only protect him. Maybe in a few hundred or even a few thousand years, they will be able to take human form. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. They didn't expect it to be so serious. Brett fainted on the spot when he heard this. To be able to make Brett of the 7 deadly sins faint, what kind of blow was this? Yihua shook his head. I really didn't expect that absolute heaven would be willing to die to save Brett. Zhu Tian's situation was different from Zishan and Yi Hong's situation, where Zhu Tian only needed a strand of Wei Chang's black mist to be able to revive them. Zhu Tian's strength was terrifying, and even Yihua could only temporarily preserve Zhu Tian's life. If Zhu Tian were to be injured a second time, even Yihua wouldn't be able to save Zhu Tian. Yi Zizi suddenly came down from upstairs. She looked at absolute heaven, who was on the verge of death, before looking at Brett, who had fainted. Yi Zizi shook her head. She then carried absolute heaven in her arms and walked upstairs. This stupid cat was actually willing to die for a woman. It was really embarrassing. Yihua sat on the high chair and didn't say anything as he drank his wine. All of the subordinates did not dare to make a sound and just stood there obediently. As for Zishan and Tang Wei, both of them were supporting Brett, who had fainted. No one had expected such a thing to happen. Absolute heaven was actually prepared to die. This was even more unimaginable. Especially for Wei Chang and Lai Gu. Absolute heaven didn't seem like the kind of man who would die for love. In the past, he didn't even put women in his eyes. Only now did they realize that absolute heaven was just putting on an act. In fact, absolute heaven had long since had Brett in his heart. It was only because of his pride that he did not accept it. Now that he was almost gone, what was the point of keeping his face? If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have acted in the first place. After a while, Brett faintly woke up. When he saw that absolute heaven had disappeared from the table, leaving behind only a pool of blood, he immediately started crying loudly. His heart-wrenching appearance made it seem as if his husband had just died. Enough. What are you crying for? You aren't dead yet. Yihua wrinkled his brows and shouted out coldly. It's fine to just scare me a little, but you actually got serious. Now you know regret. Your Honor, I'm sorry. Hearing that Zhu Tian was still alive, Brett calmed down quite a bit, and hurriedly apologized. What's the use of apologizing to me? Are you satisfied with absolute heaven's current state? I've already lowered my head to you, but you're still so stubborn. Yihua shouted out angrily. If it was according to Yihua's temper in the past, I would have given Brett a few slaps right now. Brett is too insensible. Brett powerlessly kneeled onto the ground, and one after another, tears fell onto the ground. Right now, I am already regretting. People only know how to cherish when they have lost something. When Yi Hong looked at Brett, she thought of herself and Zishan. It would be great if big brother Zhu Tian could be saved like me. But, Wei Chang, go and inform Zhu Tian's family. Yihua said gravely. After such a big matter happened, I still have to inform Zhu Tian's family. Yes. Wei Chang disappeared from Leisure Bar and brought Dongfang Yuer and Guan Yinxin with him. The two still didn't know what was going on, and they respectfully knelt down and shouted out, "We pay our respects to your honor." Get up. Yihua said gravely. Dongfang Yuer and Guan Yinxin stood up and realized that the atmosphere was not right. There were bloodstains on the table beside them and Brett was sobbing on the floor. Moreover, absolute heaven's figure was nowhere to be seen. A bad premonition lingered in the minds of the two women. Absolute heaven is injured, he needs to rest here for a period of time. Yihua lit up a stick of cigarette and said gravely. I really don't know when absolute heaven will recover. Dongfang Yuer and Guan Yinxin didn't dare to believe that absolute heaven would be injured. He is the subordinate of a supreme overlord, who would be able to injure him. Unless, the two women looked towards Brett who was sobbing on the floor. Your Honor, is absolute heaven still all right? Guan Yinxin's red lips trembled, and her beautiful face tensed up. His life is hanging by a thread. Yihua could only describe absolute heaven's situation like this. Hearing that, Guan Yinxin paused for a moment. My entire family was killed, and right now, even absolute heaven is about to die. Such a blow caused Guan Yinxin to immediately fall backwards. Dongfang Yu'er looked weak, but she didn't fall backwards like Guan Yinxin. Instead, she turned her head around and looked towards Brett. Everyone looked at the weak Dongfang Yu'er walking towards Brett. In the past, when Dongfang Yu'er saw Brett, she would appear to be afraid, but right now, Dongfang Yu'er didn't have any fear at all. Standing in front of Brett, Dongfang Yu'er raised her arm high up. Everyone didn't say anything. This time, Brett had indeed gone too far. This Dongfang Yu'er almost lost her man, who would believe that she wasn't angry. However, Dongfang Yu'er's slap did not land on Yihua's face. Instead, tears flowed down from Dongfang Yu'er's face. Why are you so heartless? Absolute heaven likes you so much, and yet, you still want to injure him. Why? Say something. Dongfang Yu'er shook Brett's shoulder, and a sense of desolation pervaded the air. Brett didn't reply and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose, I also didn't want this to happen. Hearing what Yihua said, Dongfang Yu'er sat on the floor paralyzed and cried bitterly. I already told you all that absolute heaven overlord isn't dead yet. Are you crying for me? Yihua shouted out angrily and threw the cigarette butt onto the floor. Seeing that his honor was angry, everyone lowered their heads and didn't dare to say anything. In actuality, the one who was the most vexed was Yihua. He had planned this out of good intentions, yet, I didn't expect that one of my men would almost die. This is simply lifting a rock and smashing it on my own feet. In the future, I will never do such a wicked thing again. This is retribution. Suddenly, a ray of white light flashed across the bar, and Qingye and Donghuang Baiji appeared. Seeing her husband and subordinates standing together, a woman fainting, and two women sitting on the floor crying, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji looked very puzzled. Subordinates pay respect to the two madams. Everyone shouted out respectfully. Even Brett and Dongfang Yu'er shouted out while choking with sobs. This? What happened? Qingye walked over and asked. Yihua didn't expect that his wife would actually rush over and said faintly, It's nothing, something happened to Zhu Tian. Something happened to Zhu Tian. Donghuang Baiji became even more puzzled. Your subordinates are so formidable, how could something happen to them? Seeing how Brett and Dongfang Yu'er were crying so miserably, it seems like it isn't a small matter. Did he meet with a strong enemy? Qingye asked gravely. What strong enemy? It was all because of me. Wei Chang, speak, I don't want to speak anymore. Yihua was very gloomy. I lost a powerful general in such a short period of time, don't you think that I am angry? Yes. Wei Chang responded, then said gravely, Today, His Honor arranged for Zhu Tian and Brett to meet. Yihua. After hearing what Yihua said, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji more or less understood what was going on. Both of them looked towards their man at the same time. Aren't you worrying for nothing? After hearing what Yihua said, he felt even more so. Seeing the unkind gaze of his two wives, Yihua changed the topic and asked, Why did you two suddenly come over? Chapter 584. Ali and Yen are disappeared again. Yihua exclaimed. From this sentence, it could be seen that this wasn't the first time the two little fellows disappeared. When they had nothing to do, they would hide and let the adults worry about them. Right now, they couldn't do anything about it. If you scold them, they would cry, and the next day, they would continue playing hide and seek with you. However, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji weren't too worried right now. After all, Ali had displayed his strength in the past, and he was very strong. Even if he brought his little brother to play, it would be fine. In the beginning, Qinya was still very worried. After all, Yen was still so young. However, after that, she became speechless. Basically, she could only see her son at night, and he would disappear during the day. Ever since Dong Huangli had her little brother, it was the same. Dong Huang Baiji could only see her daughter at night, unless she locked the two little fellows up. She tried to lock the two little fellows up, but it was very quickly solved by them. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. That's right, the sun is about to set, and he still hasn't returned. Qinya shook her head. My son is even more mischievous than I imagined. Yihua was very relieved. You two don't have to worry so much, he will come back sooner or later, nothing will happen. Qinya said, how old is he, and he is already like this? What will happen in the future? That's right, Ali is the same now. Donghuang Baiji shook her head. In the past, Ali was so obedient and sensible, but now that he has a playmate, his mischievous personality came out. Yihua said gravely, then, I will lock them up next time. Don't, there will be shadows. What else could Yihua do? These two women always do whatever they say. Alright, you all can disperse first. Zhu Tian will be fine after he recuperates. Brett, you will stay at Zhu Tian's place for the next few days. Yihua arranged carefully. If Zhu Tian isn't around, Dongfang family will be in a bit of danger. Letting Brett go over to Zhu Tian's place was firstly to take care of him, and secondly to get along well with them. In the future, Zhu Tian will be able to enjoy the bliss of having two wives. Just like Lai Gu, 3. I only have 2, and you two actually have one more than me. Your Honor, can I take a look at Zhu Tian? Brett said pleadingly. Right now, Brett was no longer as cold and arrogant as before. What are you looking at? Isn't it messy enough? Zhu Tian and Dongfang Yu. Brett didn't dare to go against Yihua's will, and Dongfang Yuan also didn't dare to go against Yihua's will. Everyone returned to their own positions, and Yihua drank the wine in his hand. Let's go. Let's go find those two little fellows. They're getting bolder and bolder. Yihua. You need to calm down, it's not like they did it on purpose. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji hurriedly held on to the man, fearing that Yihua would start beating the man up. Yihua turned his head around and asked gravely, weren't you guys the one who wanted to go and look for him? Weren't you the ones who wanted to teach them a lesson? Were they going to look for it? Are you going to fight or not? Qinya hurriedly comforted her husband, the children are still young, they like to play outside, calm down. That's right, with Ali looking after the child, how could anything go wrong? Donghuang Baiji also joined in, fearing that Yihua would hit the child. Meanwhile, Yihua laughed in his heart. Ali, Yen father can only help you to this point. Be at ease and have fun, your mother won't come and look for you. In the desert in the north, two small figures were playing on a sand dune. They were precisely Dong Huangli and Yi Yan who had sneaked out. As for how they managed to sneak out, they naturally relied on Ali's teleportation. It came out with a "biouf" sound. Big sister, do you think that daddy will be able to stall mommy? Yi Yan was sitting on the skateboard, and Dong Huangli was standing behind him. Don't worry, daddy is formidable, we will be able to play more today. Dong Huangli said with a sweet smile, then rubbed onto her little brother's head. Yi Yan patted his chest. Moms are too scary. Sister is still the best. Quickly push Yen. Alright, Yen, sit tight, I'll push you. Okay, Dong Huangli lightly pushed Yi Yan, and Yi Yan sat on the skateboard and slid down from the sand dune. Yi Yan was screaming, and he seemed to be having a great time. Sliding down, Yi Yan shouted, "Sister, come down quickly." "All right." Dong Huangli waved her hand, then slid down from the sand dune. Looking at his sister's valiant demeanor, Yi Yan clapped his hands and shouted, "Sister is so awesome." Dong Huangli patted on her butt. "Of course, if not, how can I be your big sister?" "Ah, big sister, let's go play with the big crab." "Those aren't called crabs, those are scorpions and rattlesnakes." Dong Huangli taught attentively. Yi Yan felt that his brain wasn't enough to understand what Dong Huangli was thinking. Yi Yan laughed foolishly. "Big sister is still the best." Yan is unable to remember. "Let big sister teach you then." "All right." Dong Huangli clapped her hands and shouted, "Xiao Yi, quickly come out." Along with Dong Huangli's shout, the ground started shaking. It seemed like there was a huge monster underneath the sand. A whirlpool could be seen suddenly appearing, and a huge monster suddenly jumped out from the sand pit. The huge monster had 2 rows of antennae. If one had trypophobia, one would definitely vomit upon seeing those antennae. Furthermore, those eyes of the centipede looked just like scales that were reflecting light. However, when the huge centipede saw the 2 little fellows, it seemed like it was trembling a bit. This story needs to be told from half a month ago. That day was sunny, and the centipede was basking in the sun. Suddenly, the centipede heard the conversation of humans on its back. Insignificant humans actually dare to ride on the centipede's back. They must be tired of living. 1 minute later, the centipede ran away in a hurry. This is simply too cruel, inhumane. This was just the beginning. In the past 10+ days, the centipede was played by the 2 siblings like a husky. Yi Yan even forced the centipede to bark like a dog, and he even demonstrated how to bark like a dog. "Yan, this is a crab," Dong Huangli said proudly. Looking at the look of worship on her little brother's face, "I feel great. Finally, there is someone who worships me." Xiao Air. Xiao San. Xiao Si. Boom, 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 the surface of the sand shook once again. A huge scorpion, a huge rattlesnake, and a lizard that looked just like Godzilla appeared. Although the 3 of them had ferocious looks on their faces, when they saw the even more ferocious pair of siblings, they didn't dare to move at all. Dong Huangli began teaching her little brother how to recognize animals. Even if Dong Huangli said something wrong, they still had to nod their heads. This is truly painful. Which family's brat is this? Hurry up and take him away, don't come and bring harm to the world. Right now, the sky was gradually getting dark. Adding family, which was located in the south. Ing Jingshan followed Death Mage's order and began releasing the first wave of ancient godly shards. This was a jade flute that belonged to He Tian back then. This time, the jade flute was finally put to use. After splitting the jade flute into 3 pieces, Ing Jingshan coughed lightly and threw the 3 pieces into the sky. Then, a huge amount of spiritual energy shot out from his finger. The spiritual energy made the ancient godly shards shine brightly, then flew towards 3 different directions. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.